In the quiet town of Willow Creek, 10-year-old Timmy peered through his bedroom curtains, heart pounding. He'd just seen a crime so dark it stole his voice and chained him to silence. Then came Keanu, a stranger with steady eyes and quiet strength, who saw the scared boy behind the fear. But can Keanu help Timmy find the courage to speak, before the shadows of that night close in for good? Willow Creek was a speck on the map, nestled between rolling hills and a lazy creek that gurgled through its heart. Porch swings creaked, fireflies blinked like tiny lanterns, and the air carried the scent of cut grass and warm pie from the diner. It was the kind of place where everyone knew your name, or thought they did. Timmy Harper, a wiry 10-year-old with a mop of brown hair, scuffed sneakers, and a perpetually smudged cheek, found solace in the town's quiet corners. By his bedroom window, he'd sketched the gnarled oak in the yard or the fireflies that danced at dusk. His notebook a sanctuary from the weight of his mom's long hours at the diner and the absence of a dad who'd vanished when Timmy was 3, leaving only a faded baseball glove on a shelf. But one sticky August night, that sanctuary shattered. Timmy had snuck out to the empty lot by the creek, chasing a firefly that flickered like a runaway star. He crouched behind a clump of weeds, watching it dart, when voices, low and sharp, cut through the humid air. In the shadow of a rusted pickup, 2 men stood over a third, slumped against the truck's dented fender, groaning in pain. One man, wiry with a jagged scar across his cheek, gripped a knife that glinted in the moonlight. The other, stocky with a sneer, held a duffel bag bulging with cash. "Tell Malone we're square," the wiry one growled, kicking the slumped man's leg. Timmy's breath caught, his body frozen. The stocky man's head snapped up, his eyes locking onto Timmy's for a split second through the weeds. Terror flooded Timmy's veins, and he bolted, sneakers slipping on dewy grass, the image of the beaten man seared into his mind. He didn't sleep that night. Or the next. Or the one after. The memory looped in his head, the knife's glint, the cash-stuffed bag, the man's pained groan. His dreams turned dark, filled with shadows chasing him down endless alleys. He didn't tell his mom, Sarah, who dragged herself home from the diner at midnight, her smile brittle as she kissed his forehead. He didn't tell his teacher, Mrs. Grayson, who'd just sigh and say, "Timmy, stop daydreaming." He didn't even tell his only friend, Ellie, a freckled girl from school who shared her snacks and never laughed at his tattered backpack. Fear was a chain around his throat, heavy and cold. Those men had seen him. They'd find him. He'd seen enough crime shows on the diner's old TV to know witnesses didn't last long. A week later, Timmy sat on the creaky steps of the Willow Creek Library, his notebook open to a sketch of the creek's curve. He drew the pickup, the knife, the bag, details he couldn't shake, as if putting them on paper might free him from their grip. Each stroke felt like a confession he wasn't ready to make. A shadow fell over him, and he flinched, heart racing. But it was just a man, tall, with dark hair tied back in a loose ponytail and a worn leather jacket. "That's some detailed work," the man said, crouching to Timmy's level, his voice calm like the creek after a rain. "I'm Keanu. Mind if I take a look?" Timmy clutched his notebook, fingers trembling, but nodded. Keanu's eyes were warm, like he'd seen hard things but chose kindness anyway. He pointed at the sketch. "You've got the creek just right. Ever try drawing the old mill down the road?" Timmy shook his head, wary, but Keanu sat on the steps, keeping his distance, and started talking about the town. The creak of the mill's wheel in the wind, how the diner's apple pie was worth the walk, the way the stray cat, Whiskers, ruled the hardware store with a flick of her tail. Timmy's shoulders eased just a fraction. Over the next few weeks, Keanu became a quiet fixture in Timmy's world. He'd show up at the library steps, the park, or the creek, always with something small. A root beer, a pack of colored pencils, once a worn baseball cap he said he'd found in his truck. He didn't pry, just shared stories. Fishing with his dad as a kid in a town like this, how he'd fixed a motorcycle for a grumpy old man who taught him chess, the time he camped under the stars and swore he heard a wolf howl. Timmy started opening up, his words tentative, about Sarah's endless shifts, the kids at school who shoved him into lockers, the way he felt like a ghost in his own life. Keanu listened, his silence an invitation, and Timmy felt seen, like someone had turned on a light in a dark room. Their routine grew roots. Keanu taught Timmy to skip stones across the creek, each plop a tiny triumph. They'd walk to the diner, Keanu joking with Sarah about her world-famous meatloaf until she laughed, her weariness lifting. One afternoon, under the oak in Timmy's yard, Keanu shared a piece of his past. "Grew up in a place like this," he said, tossing a pebble into the grass. Had a brother, Tommy, who got mixed up with bad people, drugs, theft. I was too scared to help him, too young to know how. Lost him when I was 16 to a deal gone wrong. He was my hero, but I let fear win. His voice was steady, but his eyes held a shadow, like a wound that never quite healed. Learned courage the hard way, Timmy. You don't have to. Timmy didn't ask more, but the story stuck like a seed in soft earth. At home, things were harder. Sarah noticed Timmy's quietness, the way he jumped at shadows. One night, as she tucked him in, her diner uniform smelling faintly of coffee, she sat on his bed. "What's wrong, baby?" she asked, brushing his hair back. Timmy's throat tightened. He wanted to tell her about the lot, the men, the knife, but the fear was too big. "Just tired," he mumbled, staring at the baseball glove on his shelf, its leather cracked like his courage. She kissed his forehead, but her eyes lingered, worried. Later, Timmy overheard her on the phone with her sister, Jen, whispering, "He's not himself. I'm scared, Jen. I can't lose him too." The words cut deep, and Timmy curled tighter under his blanket, guilt mixing with fear. At school, Ellie noticed too. During lunch, she slid half her peanut butter sandwich across the table. "You look like you saw a ghost," she said, her freckles crinkling as she frowned. Timmy forced a smile, but his sketchbook stayed closed. He didn't want her to see the drawings of the pickup, the knife. "Just bad dreams," he lied. Ellie didn't push, but she stuck closer, sharing her crayons in art class, walking with him to the bus, her chatter about her dog, Muffin, filling the silence. One day, she dragged him to the school's art room after hours, where they painted a mural of Willow Creek for the fall festival. "You're the best artist I know," she said, splattering blue paint on her nose. Timmy laughed, the first real laugh in weeks. One evening, as crickets chirped and the sky turned purple, Timmy and Keanu sat by the creek. Timmy's pencil froze over his sketch of the pickup. His voice barely a whisper, he said, "I saw something bad. In the lot by the creek. A man got hurt. I'm scared they'll find me if I tell." He stared at the water, waiting for Keanu to brush it off. Instead, Keanu nodded, his face serious but kind. "That's a heavy thing to carry, Timmy. You don't have to carry it alone. Fear's like a storm cloud. It feels huge, but it passes if you face it. Telling the truth is scary, but it's how you stop bad people from hurting others. You're stronger than you think." Keanu didn't push him to say more. Instead, he showed Timmy how to stand taller, how to look Tommy Reed, the school bully, in the eye and say, "Back off," with a steady voice. The first time Timmy tried it, in the hallway by the lockers, his knees shook, but Tommy froze, then walked away, muttering. Timmy's chest swelled. Keanu taught him to help Sarah with small things, carrying groceries, washing dishes, even planting marigolds in their tiny yard. Each act made Timmy feel bigger, like he could hold the world a little steadier. But the fear clung like damp fog. One night, Timmy woke to a low rumble outside, a car idling. He peeked through his curtains and saw a dark sedan parked across the street. A man stood under the streetlight, wiry, with a scar. Timmy ducked, his breath ragged, and sketched the sedan in his notebook, hands shaking. The next day, he showed Keanu the drawing, his voice trembling. Keanu's jaw tightened, but he kept his tone calm. "You're not alone, kid. I've got your back." He gave Timmy a small pocket knife, not for fighting but for carving sticks, a reminder of control. "Keep this. It's for courage, not trouble." Keanu was already moving pieces in the shadows. He knew the men Timmy described, Vince, the wiry one with the scar, and Rico, the stocky one, were muscle for a man named Malone, a kingpin running extortion, theft, and worse through small towns like Willow Creek. Keanu had seen their kind before, in the life he'd left behind after losing his brother. He'd been a drifter then, running from his guilt, but Willow Creek felt like a chance to make things right. He started digging quietly. At the gas station, Old Man Jenkins grumbled about shady types at the old barn off Highway 12. At the barbershop, Miss Clara whispered about Malone, who owned half the county's secrets. The librarian, Mr. Hayes, mentioned strange deliveries to the mill at night. Widow Thompson, who ran the general store, complained about men in suits pressuring her to sell her land. Keanu pieced it together. The barn was their hub, the lot by the creek a drop point, the mill a cover for moving stolen goods, and Malone was squeezing the town dry. Keanu kept Timmy close, teaching him to ride a bike in the park, making sure he was never alone. They'd toss a baseball, Keanu showing him how to curve a pitch, laughing when Timmy's throw went wild into the bushes. At night, Keanu worked like a ghost. He staked out the barn, a crumbling relic under starlight, watching Vince and Rico load crates into a van. His camera clicked, Photos of license plates, faces, a duffel bag like the one Timmy saw. He tailed Rico to a dive bar on the edge of town, overhearing talk of a big deal. A shipment of stolen electronics headed for the city, with Malone planning to expand his grip on Willow Creek. Keanu sent an anonymous tip to Sheriff Daniels, a cop he'd met years back in another town, detailing Malone's operation. Dates, times, locations, and names. The danger was closing in. One afternoon, as Timmy walked home from school with Ellie, a sedan, the same sedan, crawled past, its tinted windows hiding the driver. Timmy grabbed Ellie's arm, pulling her behind a tree. "What's wrong?" she whispered, eyes wide. Timmy shook his head, heart pounding. "Just stay away from that car." He didn't tell her more, but Ellie stuck closer, her chatter about Muffin and the mural a lifeline. That night, Timmy drew the sedan again, adding the streetlight, the scar. He hid the sketch under his mattress, afraid Sarah would see. At the town's annual fall festival, Keanu brought Timmy and Ellie to lighten the mood. They tossed rings at bottles, ate cotton candy, and laughed when Keanu missed every shot at the dunk tank, soaking a grinning Sheriff Daniels instead. Sarah joined them for an hour, her smile real for the first time in weeks, her apron swapped for a sundress. They rode the Ferris wheel, Timmy clutching the bar, Ellie whooping as they rose above the twinkling fairgrounds. But when a man in a hooded jacket lingered too long by the cotton candy stand, watching them, Keanu's hand tightened on Timmy's shoulder. "Time to go," he said, steering them away. Later, at the diner, Sarah confided in Keanu over coffee. "Timmy's scared of something," she said, twisting a napkin. "He won't tell me. I'm losing him, Keanu." Keanu nodded, his voice low. "He's a good kid. I'll keep an eye on him. We'll figure it out." At school, the talent show loomed. Timmy had never signed up, too shy, but Keanu's words, about courage being a muscle, stuck. Ellie pushed him too, saying, "You're the best artist I know. Show 'em." He entered, holding up a sketch of the creek on stage, his voice wobbly as he explained why he loved drawing. "It makes the world make sense, even when it's scary." His hands shook, but he finished, the crowd clapping, Sarah wiping tears in the back. Ellie hooped, punching his arm. Keanu gave a thumbs up from the side, but his eyes scanned the room, catching a glimpse of a hooded figure slipping out the back door. The next day, Timmy overheard something chilling. At the general store, Widow Thompson was arguing with a man in a suit, Rico. "Malone says sell, or you'll regret it," Rico snarled. Thompson stood her ground, but her voice shook. Timmy slipped out, heart racing, and told Keanu. "They're hurting people," he whispered. Keanu's eyes darkened. "Not for long, kid." Keanu stepped up his game. He visited Widow Thompson, offering to fix her shop's leaky roof, listening as she spilled her fears about Malone's pressure. He slipped into the mill one night, finding crates marked for export hidden behind sacks of grain. He tailed Vince to a meeting at a truck stop, where a new player, a man with a city accent, talked about cleaning up loose ends. Keanu's blood ran cold. He knew what that meant. The breaking point came one stormy night. Timmy woke to glass shattering downstairs. He crept to the stairs, clutching the pocket knife, and saw a shadow moving in the kitchen. Sarah's voice, sharp with fear, said, "Get out." Timmy froze, but Keanu's words echoed. Courage is choosing to act. He ran to his room, grabbed his sketchbook, and scrawled a note. "Man in house. Help." He slipped it out the window, hoping Ellie, who lived next door, would see. Then he crept downstairs, heart pounding, and yelled, "Leave her alone." The man, Vince, spun, his scar stark in the dim light. Sarah swung a frying pan, catching Vince's arm. He cursed, stumbling out the back door as Ellie's dad pounded on the front, shouting. Vince fled into the rain. Timmy told Keanu everything the next morning, trembling but standing tall. Keanu's face was grim. "You're braver than most, kid." That night, Timmy made his choice. At the sheriff's office, Keanu, Sarah, and Ellie beside him, he told Sheriff Daniels everything. The knife, the cash, the beaten man, Vince's scar, Rico's sneer, the break-in. His voice shook, but he kept going, the words spilling like water breaking a dam. Ellie squeezed his hand under the table, Sarah's arm around him. Keanu's presence was steady, an anchor. The sheriff scribbled notes, his face grim. "You're a brave kid, Timmy," he said. "We'll take it from here." The raid hit like lightning. Deputies stormed the barn at dawn, catching Vince and Rico with crates of stolen electronics, cash, and fake IDs. Malone tried to flee, but Keanu's photos led deputies to the motel, where he was nabbed with a suitcase of forged documents and a burner phone. A second raid hit the mill, uncovering more evidence. The news swept Willow Creek. Folks gossiped at the diner, the barber shop, the library. Old man Jenkins slapped his knee, saying, "Told you those fellas were trouble." Miss Clara baked a pie for the sheriff's office. Mr. Hayes dusted off a book on local history, muttering about cleaning up the town. Widow Thompson hung a new sign on her store, "Not for sale." Sarah hugged Timmy so tight he couldn't breathe, her voice thick with tears. "My brave, brave boy." Timmy grinned, glancing at Keanu, who nodded, pride in his eyes. Sarah invited Keanu, Ellie, and her family for dinner, serving meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and pie. The Harper house filled with laughter, Ellie teasing Timmy about his wobbly stage voice, Keanu telling a story about Whiskers stealing his sandwich, Ellie's dad recounting the night he scared off Vince. For the first time in months, the house felt like a home. As fall painted the hills gold, the town held a cleanup day by the creek. Timmy and Ellie led a group of kids, picking up litter, their mural unveiled on the library wall, a vibrant scene of Willow Creek's hills, creek, and fireflies. Keanu stopped by one last time, handing Timmy a new sketchbook, its pages crisp and waiting, along with a carved wooden fish he'd whittled. "Keep drawing," he said. "Keep being brave. You've got a whole world to show, kid." He turned to Ellie. "Keep him out of trouble, yeah?" Ellie saluted, grinning. Keanu walked down the road, his boots crunching gravel, his figure fading into the dusk. Timmy sat under the oak, sketching Keanu by the creek, standing tall under a sky full of stars. He added himself, holding the pocket knife, Ellie beside him with her freckled smile, Sarah in the background, strong and smiling. He didn't feel invisible anymore. In his notebook, he started a new page, a sketch of Willow Creek, the creek sparkling, the town alive, and him, ready for whatever came next.